Here are some meals that I eat on repeat when it's cold because they're hearty, they're comforting, they're nutritious, they taste bloody amazing. I know you hate my long intros, so let's get straight into the food. Don't know about you guys, but in the colder months, something that kind of saves me on a daily basis is root veggies. Did you see that little slip? I know that most people wouldn't think of salads as like warming and comforting and stuff like that, but if you do it well, and if you've got squishy, succulent, caramelized root veggies on top, no one's rang that front doorbell in 3 years. Hold on. So I'm gonna be roasting up some carrots, some golden butternut squash, which for some reason is like 10 times sweeter than regular butternut squash, so would definitely recommend. Can only find this in Waitrose though. And then, like I said, the most underrated vegetable in the world, the parsnip. These are all gonna get roasted, they're gonna be beautiful and caramelized. Then we're gonna top them over the creamiest kale salad that gets tossed with pecan nuts, pomegranate seeds, beautiful avocado and lime dressing. And once you've made this once, trust me, it will be in your repertoire for life. For those people that don't like raw kale, don't worry, I don't either. But when you make it this way and you let it like sit enough and leave it to wilt while the veggies are roasting, trust me, just trust me. Just a smidge of, I'm using basil infused olive oil. I always kind of switch between garlic infused and basil infused, but right now, this is where it's at. Salt and pepper. Gonna get in there with my hands. Again, I'm gonna take my ring off because people that toss vegetables with rings on need to be shot. Said it before, and I'll say it again. Forgot to mention, we are gonna spice this up with some cinnamon. Literally the only spice I'm gonna use. Cinnamon is something that I honestly think goes even better with savory things rather than sweet. I mean, I know that these root vegetables are sweet and the cinnamon is gonna bring that out even more. Whenever I roast vegetables, especially with this salad, you gotta have the cinnamon, so don't skip that. Into a hot oven for about 20 to 25 minutes, and then we're gonna have sweet caramelized magic. You'll see. Literally using a giant bag of organic kale because this will wilt. So even if it's for one person, put more than you think. Some beautiful creamy avocado, which we're gonna start the dressing off with. Gonna use the juice of about 2 to 3 fresh limes. These are pretty small ones. If you have big ones, maybe just use a couple. I'm adding just the tiniest bit of maple syrup, and that's just because there is so much lime in there that we want to just give it a tiny bit of sweetness for contrast. A little bit of garlic powder, granules, whatever you want to call it. Salt and pepper. Do have a few other ingredients I want to add to the salad, but it's important that we get the base going first so that when the root veggies are ready, the kale is nice and wilted and soft, succulent. Getting in there with my hands again. All right, so let's get chopping with the other ingredients. Of course, in any winter salad, you have to have some thin strips of purple cabbage. You want to cut these really nice and thin. On the note of purple, I want some sharp red or purple onion in this. Again, very, very thinly sliced again. Got this giant pomegranate at the market the other day, and it better be a sweet one because I've only got one, so. Would you look at that? They're like little ruby gems. Gonna save some of these for the top, just for decoration purposes. Don't skip this step though, the pomegranate takes it to a different level. I'm gonna throw in a big handful of whole pecan nuts, and you wanna keep them whole. I don't know why, it just goes down better that way. And let's have a little toss. Perfect. As you can see, these have caramelized to perfection. The black bits aren't burnt, that's just the cinnamon caramelizing, which is exactly what I wanted. You all knew that this was gonna get smothered with some beautiful, runny, liquid gold. A few extra pomegranate seeds on top. Would you look at that? It's not just the beautiful flavors, there's so many different textures in there as well. This really is one of the most delicious salads of all time. Beautiful. We all know how comforting oatmeal is, especially when it's cold, but when you make it with cooked down apples, with cinnamon and coconut oil, and I also make the oats with, I make it with herbal tea, as in instead of just making it with water or plant milk, like usually I just use plant milk, what I've started doing is infusing some water with a herbal tea. Sometimes I use chamomile, sometimes I use turmeric. Today I'm using ginger, and then I cook the oats in the herbal tea, so it already has like a spiced gingery flavor, and then with the cooked apples on top. I don't know whether to call it compote or just applesauce. All I know is that this is the most delicious and comforting way to eat oatmeal, and you're gonna love it. You can use any apples that you want for this. I would recommend using sweet apples. Something like Granny Smith apples will probably be a bit too tart, especially because with the ginger spiced oatmeal, you want something sweet on top. These apples are, I believe they're gala apples. They're local. Jill actually picked them from the fields near our house. You can also add dates if you want, but they do get a bit slimy. Just a little bit of coconut oil. It's so strange to be frying something sweet because I automatically think about adding like salt and pepper. I was literally just about to add salt and pepper. Beautiful sweet cinnamon. Gonna add some oat milk to this ginger tea, just because I want the oatmeal to be creamy as well. I never make it fully just with water. The tea bag went in. I'm using a scoop of the vanilla vegan protein from Vivo Life, which I'll link down below. The reason I add protein to my oats is because number one, it blunts that ozy I call it, oat and dozy. It blunts the sleepy effect that oats can give some people, and it also keeps you full up for much longer, and the flavor of this is just beautiful. Usually I use the dark chocolate one. Today I'm going with vanilla because I feel like that will go better with the apples and the cinnamon, and yeah. I'm using whole rolled oats, the large ones. For me, they're just so much more, don't know what the word is, robust, chewy. Chewy's not the right word. Cook this down nice and slowly. 1 scoop of the vanilla protein. These have softened beautifully, and I'm just gonna break them up a little bit. You can see how nice and squishy they are. Beautiful, sweet apple mush. I don't actually know what to call it. Would you look at that? That is perfection. But, guys, the thing is, I was gonna put peanut butter on top, but I've decided to go with liquid gold. Do you know what, guys? I did think I was gonna stop there, but I also want a little drizzle of date syrup and happily apply to face. When it's cold, I don't think there's anything more comforting than a steamy hot bowl of pasta or spaghetti with a fresh tomato homemade sauce, which literally only takes 2 minutes to make because we make the sauce in the blender. then warm it up in the pan with the pasta. It's made with sun-dried tomatoes, fresh tomatoes, garlic, lemon, cashews. You can also use tahini, but I feel like I'm using tahini in every single recipe that I'm making today, which is not unusual for me, but sometimes I like a bowl of pasta full of veggies and all the other good stuff, but there are those times when all you want is just a big steaming bowl of tomato creamy comforting pasta on its own. I am gonna toss some baby spinach through at the end just for a bit of green goodness and flavor, but let's make it. You also don't need a high-speed blender to make this, like a Vitamix or anything. I don't have a Vitamix. As long as you soak your cashew nuts first in some boiling water, which I've done, all good. These sun-dried tomatoes I'm using are the ones from Sainsbury's. If you're in the UK, you can use any sun-dried tomatoes. These ones are flavored with oregano and garlic, but any sun-dried tomatoes will do. 3 big fat cloves of garlic, sun-dried tomatoes, a little bit of the olive oil too. Some fresh tomatoes. I'm using cherry tomatoes. And the juice of about 3 to 4 fresh lemons. Lemone. I only have 1 lemon, so I'm gonna use some lime as well, which is probably gonna make it a bit more sour, but we have all the sweetness from those tangy sun-dried tomatoes. A little bit, and this is a very important part, of sweet smoked paprika. This makes such a huge difference, even though I'm only putting, I don't know, a couple teaspoons. Also gonna put a tiny bit of the pasta water in, which obviously is quite starchy, and it's gonna help to amalgamate it into a beautiful creamy sauce. And let's blend it. Guys, what in the world was I thinking? Legit forgot salt and pepper. All right, round 2. By the way, I forgot to tell you, the pasta I'm using is buckwheat pasta. I do usually use chickpea just because it's higher in protein, or red lentil, again higher in protein, a lot more filling, but in terms of comfort, in terms of texture, buckwheat is by far my favorite. It has a little chew to it, which is just delicious. Throw in a handful of baby spinach. I know it looks like a lot, but it's gonna wilt. I mean, can you get a more comforting bowl of food than this? Answer is no. Cheers. I know that this isn't really a recipe, but guys, in the winter when it's cold, one thing I eat every single day is persimmon or Sharon fruit. They are just the most beautiful date level of sweetness winter fruit, and I just cannot understand people that don't go to town on them in winter when they're in season. So obviously persimmon on their own, the most delicious thing in the world, but my friends, if you want to jazz it up a little bit, if you want to make it a little bit bougie and sophisticated and special, one thing that really works with this intensely sweet fruit is the bitterness of a little drizzle, big drizzle of liquid gold. This also needs a little sprinkle of crushed sea salt. Sea salts? Sea salt. And there you have it, the sweetness, the bitterness, the saltiness. This honestly is the most delicious winter snack of all time. Cheers.